Hey everybody, this is Flathead Terry again, and today's adventure is to take this apart. This is a Model A generator, 6 volt. Right now it works properly. However, it's been sitting for about 40 years, and there's definitely some issues with the bearings and the bushings from here, and especially in the front where the pulley goes. So what I'm going to do is disassemble it and prepare it for new bearings, eventually putting in the new bearings in the video. So let's get started. First thing I got to do is take this pulley off and go from there. Okay, I've removed the pulley. As you can see, this is the short version, but the bearing is located in here. So what I'm going to have to do is get this end plate off, and to do that there's long screws way over here that go all the way through and connect to these nuts here that hold this whole assembly together. So let me take those off and see what we can find here. Okay, I've removed the two nuts here, and here are the extra long screws that go all the way through. You can see they're full of a lot of grease, so I'll have to clean those up. But I'll set those aside. Now to take off this side plate here carefully. There's a clip on here I'm going to have to remove. That's right in here. So let me take care of that. Okay, here's the snap ring that I took off the end of the armature shaft here. Now I can take that whole assembly off carefully. There, pops right off. You can see the bearing is inside. Yeah, looks like it may have been replaced. Some of these rivets are pounded over, so this is probably replaced at one time, but I can feel in here how it's got some little play in it. It's still pretty smooth, but to be on the safe side, let's just replace it with a new sealed bearing. So next what I'm going to do is remove these, or somehow get this plate off so I can get that bearing out. Okay, I was able to grind out those old rivets and pull up looks like the old original bearing retainer. So here's the bearing itself. It's an old ball bearing type, of course. Works pretty well, feels pretty good. Again, there's a lot of slop inside here that's got some issues, so if I'm going to run this thing for a long period of time, I want to make sure they have fresh bearings in it. So I'll pop this guy out. Okay, I was able to get the bearing out. It actually came out pretty easily, just with a little pressure. I was able to pop it out. But as I feel inside here, now with the bearing out, I can feel it rumble a little bit, so I know there's some issues with it that long term would probably expose themselves to me at the most inappropriate time. So now we'll get a new one. Let me clean up all these greasy parts and start getting to the back of this generator. Okay, next I need to take this cover off, the shield that covers up the brushes, to get back to this rear bushing. Okay, I was able to get the cover off that protects all the brushes inside here, and then I've loosened up the rear plate here that contains the bushing, or actually the bushing or the bearing. I believe it's a bearing. So what I'm going to do now is kind of carefully slide these out so the armature is in place here. So I need to slide out so all of the brushes inside are spring loaded, so they're always a lot of fun to put back together. But still need to get this out. Okay, so here's that. Now I can carefully, I may just leave the armature right there and get that out. Okay, there's the armature. So there's a bushing over here, some wear on it. So let's continue. So now the next thing would be to carefully remove the brushes, the wires that go to the brushes, But the first thing I'm going to do is label them so I keep track of where they go onto which brush in the future. So I will do that. Okay, I was able to loosen the two wires that go down to the brushes here and here. You can barely see them. So now this end plate will come off carefully. So I've marked it so I know that this cover goes on a certain way. Of course, it makes it kind of self-explanatory when you know that these two brushes will rub in there. So I'm going to inspect these as well. Those brushes look to be in really good shape. You can see there's a lot of life left in them. Somebody replaced them not too long ago. And then also, if we look at the armature itself, just looking here, this looks really good along here. Let's see if I can zoom in or get closer to it. That's in really good shape. There's no grooves, or very slight groove along this edge here. Looks to be in really good shape. And again, this bushing back here is where the issue is on there. So this is scored a little bit, but not bad. So let's go back here. So now this needs some disassembly to replace this bushing back here. So that's where the next challenge is. Okay, you'll notice that I have the cover back on the back of the generator, and then also I put this rear cover back on. After I inspected the shaft and the bushing of this rear cover, they were in better shape than I expected. So what I did is I polished the shaft on the armature, checked the brushes yet again, and they were in great shape. Plenty of life left on them, so they were all in good working order. So I just reassembled this plate and the cover for the brushes, and reattached the wires as well. So this part is all done. So now we're going to go to the front. I do have my new sealed bearing. This has to be assembled in this order. So all of these shims, this is a felt piece of like a sealer of some sort. You get this in here, you put this together, and then this also is put together here, and that all gets assembled back into this. I have obtained some rivets, so we'll do that and put this all together in order and then reassemble. So let me get that done. Okay, I've reassembled the end plate here, put some new rivets in, as you can see here. Put the washers back in there, get the plate back in, got, like I said, all the rivets in. So now we are going to put the plate back on. There's a little tab here to line it up with the slot on here. Put that in, and then we'll push this washer back in, and then the retainer clip, and then we'll put on the pulley. So let me get this done. Okay, I have the plate back on. Now I got my two long mounting screws here that will go in the back here. All right, there's one of them, and here's the other. There we go, slid right in. Apply the mounting nuts. All right, let me tighten those up, and we'll next put on these two pieces and then onto the pulley. Okay, I've installed the spacer inside here, as you can barely see, but in here. And then there's also this clip that mounts into this groove on the armature to help hold this whole bearing assembly inside. So that's done. And next we're going to attach the pulley to complete this whole assembly. And I will torque these down. I'll use a bigger wrench here after this video to confirm, but now we have a perfectly spinning bearing assembly here. We're all set to go. What you can hear there in the squeak is the the brushes rubbing against the commutator on the armature. So we're good to go. Hope this has been helpful for you.